Alrighty, so when a pig eats its food, it's going to go through the process of digestion. So when a pig eats food, of course, it's going to start in the mouth where both mechanical and chemical digestion is happening. The mechanical is going to be when the pig is chewing, and then the chemical is going to be where the chemicals and the salivary gland are going to break down with some of the enzymes. And then the pig is then going to swallow the food, and then on the top of the throat, it's going to get pushed back, but there's going to be a flap that covers the trachea so the food doesn't go down, because you can see that here's the trachea, and the esophagus goes right behind them. And so if food gets into the trachea, that's how you choke, and you can asphyxiate yourself. And so then there's a thin muscle that lines the entire digestive system. So when food is in your esophagus, it gets shoved down really fast. So it's called peristalsis. And so it's going to shove it down really fast as if you were squeezing, think about like squeezing a toothpaste bottle, and it just kind of forces everything down. And it's going to go into your stomach, which is right here. And so the pig has his liver, and then it goes into the stomach right here. And so we have a couple things everything over here. So right now you see your liver, which is going to have, this is going to be a 5-lobed liver. And then underneath the 3rd lobe is going to be the gallbladder. And so the gallbladder is going to have like a green tint to it, and it's going to be shaped into a tear. And then your stomach connects to the small intestine right here, and the gallbladder also attaches to your small intestine as well. As you can see right here, it looks kind of like cottage cheese. That's going to be your pancreas, and your pancreas is going to have an enzyme to break down carbs, and then the gallbladder is going to break down, having like a bile thing, and it breaks down the fats. And so then everything will go through your small intestine, and the small intestine in an average human is actually 26 feet, whereas the large intestine is only 6 to 8 feet. But the reason it's called a small intestine is because it's talking about the diameter, or how big it is around. Okay, so when you're having your small intestine, there's parts right here where it's actually connected to the circulatory system. And this is how, when you're breaking down your foods, all the nutrients get absorbed back into your bloodstream. So all of this lining right here is called mesentery. And so in the small intestine, there's something called villi, which just increases the surface area of the small intestine, so you can get more food into it. And so when your the food is going from the stomach into the small intestine, it's going to have a very pancakey texture to it, like the pancake batter itself, and that way it can be better absorbed, and so there's no chunks to it. So then all of this over here is going to be your small intestine until you get back down into here, and all of this area is going to be your large. So as the food is passing through the small intestine, it's called chyme, and so the chyme is then going to go to the large intestine, which is going to be underneath the small intestine right around here. And then the large intestine actually wraps around into the small intestine, but there's going to be fewer blood vessels in there because it's no longer digesting food. It's now this is where the waste is going to be stored until the body's ready to excrete it. And so the purpose of storing that is so water can be taken out and redistributed to the body, and that's going to keep the waste from becoming diarrhea, because if it becomes diarrhea, then you can become really dehydrated, and then you have the health risks with that. Okay, so when it's being held in the large intestine, it's going to be stored there until it's ready to be excreted through the anus. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the liver. And so the liver, once again, has 5 lobes. So it has one teeny one down here, then it has 2, and then 3 where the gallbladder is attached to it. So I'm going to now cut out the liver, and we'll look at it, get a closer look at it. So starting from the right side, that's how we're going to go. So you can see here kind of how everything is attached to each other, which is the cool part about this kind of versus other parts where they were connected but just in smaller pieces, whereas this is just such a large pathway for the food to take. Alrighty, so now we have our liver, and then you can see right here is going to be that gallbladder that has bile that's going to break down those fats. So something to fully understand about the liver is that food never actually goes through the liver. It just makes the bile that the gallbladder will send out to the small intestine for digestion. Okay, so next I'm going to cut out the stomach, and I'm going to cut it right here where it attaches to the small intestine. Alrighty, and then we're going to separate it from this bad guy. Alrighty, so here is our stomach, and it looks kind of like an envelope. Okay, so right now we're going to take a look inside the stomach and kind of see what comes out of it. It's just... So this is the inside of the pig. Okay, so just like I said before, we can tell that this baby pig was alive because of the consistency of what appears to be kind of like this brown kind of kernel looking things, but there still is some of this green in it, and so a fetal pig that hasn't been born yet, all you'll see is green, and that's what it's basically called meconium, and it's the cells kind of schlucking off of the digestive system, and that way the baby pig can practice the digestion before they're actually born. Okay, so now I'm actually going to cut out the small intestine. Doing this, some of the large intestine will be cut off too, just because it's intertwined with it, and then once we do that, we're actually going to take it out and measure the small intestine. Okay, so now when we're doing this, you're going to put one finger kind of by the mesentery, and then the other part holding the small intestine, and then you're just going to pull it and break it away. And then if you can, which probably I won't be able to do, you can pull it and try to keep it from breaking, and then you can keep it all together while you're unwinding it, and just that way when you measure it'll be all connected. Okay, so now that we have the small intestine all unraveled, you can really see truly how long it is. It doesn't look like it's going to be that long when it's all So now that you guys have your small intestine all unraveled, now what you're going to do is that you're going to take a string and kind of just trace the path of it, and then once you have that full length of string, you'll measure it up against a meter stick to see how long it is.